morning and welcome to the Leaders 101, where Be Elite podcast students interview the leaders at Elite Academic Academy. I'm Angelina, and joining me today is Desiree. I would like to welcome Mr. Evan Jorgensen, the director of the Homeschool Academy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you, Angelina.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, let's see where to start. I grew up in Michigan, and growing up in school, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. Just like maybe just like you, Angelina and Desiree, had no clue what I wanted to do. So when I went off to college, I went to Michigan State University, and I changed my major multiple times. I went in as an engineering major, and then I changed to a film major, and then I changed to a creative writing major. And then I eventually realized that one of the things I love doing is teaching people about lots of different things and just connecting with, especially with kids, and just feeling the energy through some of the experiences I had had as a camp counselor and as a tutor in college for some younger kids. And I decided I wanted to go into education. So I went into education. Into elementary education was my original major in school. And so that was my trajectory into the field of education. And now I have two boys, Liam, who is 3 years old, and Elliot, who's one, just turned one. And I live with my wife. And in our spare time, which we do not always get spare time, but we try and spend as much time as we can outside with our boys, and just trying to get out of the house, because I work from home in this setting. So I like to get out of the house sometimes and just spend time with our family. But yeah, we really like to get out. We like to dance to live music. That's one of our favorite things to do, to get out, to hike, to be with our neighbors and our community, and just leave the house. We love our house and where we live, but when you work from home, you kind of want to leave it sometimes. I'm sure you both understand that.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally get you. I'm the same way. So next question, why did you choose to join Elite?
Well, I am so proud to be here. I joined Elite from the birth of Elite. I had met some of the other leaders and administrators and teachers of Elite at prior organizations. So I've been in the world of charter schools, especially in homeschool charter schools, since 2011. And since that time, I've met a lot of wonderful people along the way. And some schools I worked at were better than others. And we knew that eventually our paths would cross again as we started our own school. And so there was a lot of roadblocks on that journey, meeting the right people along the way. And eventually we were able to find and create Elite, and kind of shape it into what it is today. And that took a lot of time and a lot of planning and a lot of targeted work together as leaders about what we wanted the school to look like. I'm so proud to be here, and to work alongside a lot of the leaders that I work alongside are so inspiring to me. The students I work with, Angelina and Desiree, both of you included, are so inspiring to me. You know, seeing our students step up as leaders is what this school is really about. It's one of the top priorities. So I chose to be here not just as a school, but this was a home. This was finally a place where I could feel like everything that I had been striving for in my career was possible, to really have a student-centered organization, to have leaders that are focused on students, to have a place that's able to listen, because that really is why we're here, is to make sure that we're listening to families, we're listening to students. You know, what do you want? What are you looking for? Because oftentimes it's possible, it's just, are those that are running the school listening, or are they making decisions, from talking? So I'm very excited to be here. I chose Elite for many reasons. And yeah, this is my home. This is my family.
I think it was a good choice choosing Elite, and I think the teachers are really incredible here. I know you're a dad and a teacher, a director at the same time. So, what is your daily routine as a director of homeschooling?
Oh, Angelina, that's a great question. Well, in the morning, I wake up with my boys, sometimes earlier than I would like, with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. But I wake up with my boys, and I try and put everything for the day that I have to do for work a little bit on hold and on pause. I think we've all learned how to prioritize and to look at what we know is really important. So my day starts with being with my boys and being with my wife and having a nice, slow morning. I take both of my boys to daycare and preschool, and it's right around the corner from where we live. So normally we walk there together, and then I put in my AirPods and I listen to a nice podcast or some relaxing music on the way back, and have a nice walk and a little peaceful alone time as I think in my head about what the day is going to be like and my priorities. And then when I get home, get some stuff done around the house, some things to feel good, to feel productive. And this is a routine that I try not to stray from, because otherwise, as somebody who works from home, it's so easy to accidentally just get started working early, and then you find yourself working all through the day. So it's really important to keep this pretty structured alone time, as you could call it, to either, to walk, to take a run, to get on my bike, even just for 15-20 minutes before you then get into the thick of it. And you both know, as students in an independent study school, at Elite, you have to make sure you structure time for yourself too. Otherwise, you will find yourself trying to get work done at all hours of the day. And that's not healthy. So we have to pick our priorities and be structured and targeted. And then throughout the day, it's a lot of supporting teachers to then support students. So there are some days where I get to be really big picture and really looking at the mission and vision of what we're doing and how we're listening to you as students and to families, and how we're communicating, and what's coming up next year. And then there are other days that I have my fire extinguisher in hand and we're putting out fires all day. Whether it's some issues with students or issues with vendors, or issues with teachers. The support never ends, but that's one thing that I absolutely love about Elite, is that all of those that are in leadership roles here are ready to step up in those times of need, because that usually means a student is in need, a parent is in need, a teacher is in need, and when those moments happen, we need to be ready to drop and get on their level, because that is why we're here. We're here to support, and we can't ever forget that, because every ounce of what I put into a teacher goes directly into the student, and that's really powerful and is never lost on me. Other than that, I'd love to say I cut it off at a great time in the afternoon and I have a wonderful afternoon session, but of course, sometimes days go late. But it's so wonderful to have the structured flexibility that we have here with our days. We can work in a lunchtime, we can work in a phone call while you're taking a walk or something like that. But I spend a lot of time on Zoom. So it's also important to walk away from your computer screen and be honest about your priorities, that, hey, can we take a phone call? Because my eyes are getting a little sore from Zoom, and which is okay too.
Yeah, I think some people like that don't do homeschool, like they don't realize like how much we have to do. They just think like, oh yeah, like it's a free day for us. So like saying that, like, do you think it's harder, like, or hard to be the director of homeschool?
It's absolutely a very difficult position. Like I said, every day is different, one of the things that makes our world, especially in homeschool, challenging is that we provide so much flexibility and personalization, right? It comes down per student what we are deciding as educators when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to supplements, when it comes to enrichment, when it comes to scheduling, support, tutoring. These decisions are made per student. That makes our jobs tremendously difficult because that means the support that each teacher is providing each student and each family is unique. That means there's a lot of partnerships with curriculum. There's a lot of work with quality. There's a lot of work with making sure our schedules are student-centered, as well as a lot of supporting the back-end work. There's a lot of compliance and ensuring we are hitting and going above and beyond all the state standards. But all of that challenge of providing all that flexibility is worth it, because that is why we're here. We are here to individualize, truly individualize, look at a student as one student, not as a fifth grade student, but look at a student as where they're coming to you from, what their experiences were like, what their interests are, what their passions are, and plan around them to set up for the next week, the next learning period, the next semester, the next year, and do long-term planning together with the family. In our world, we're partnering with families, not just students. And on that, sometimes it means making sure grandma and grandpa who live at home also understand the mission of homeschooling, because they're going to be there helping to grade the math work, helping to keep the daily schedule going, communicating with dad who might be at work, but he wants to check if they're in an online course, he wants to check in. So we're communicating with him, right? So we're plugging into a full family network all around one student. That means it's very challenging, especially as we're supporting teachers and setting expectations, but boy, is it worth it.
Aside from working as a homeschool director, have you ever worked in an in-person school, and how was it different from working at Elite?
Yes, I absolutely have. So I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, and then I taught second grade, and then I taught fifth grade, and I loved fifth grade. I loved teaching in the fifth grade classroom. Such a wonderful time in a child's life when they're really learning their independence and what they really love about learning, right? That is the moment, fifth, sixth, seventh grade, when a child oftentimes either learns to love learning or they learn that learning is not of interest, right? And it's up to us as educators to help make sure that we're keeping an eye on ensuring what they're doing is interesting to them and they see worth in their education. Also, at fifth grade is normally when kids start becoming funny and sarcastic, and it's so fun. However, the classroom has a whole host of other challenges, right? As a classroom teacher, everything I just talked about with individualizing per student, we're individualizing. We have our curriculum per grade level, and then we're trying to differentiate the curriculum per student as much as possible. As an educator, that's really difficult, and you end up really providing lessons that will reach some students and not others. And then it's up to us as teachers to try and fill in the gaps in the curriculum, to work with our students one-on-one, to find opportunities to work small groups. And it's all really great work, and it is worth it. But the reason that I left that setting in search of something more individualized is because every year there were more and more students that we could tell were falling behind, right? And it can be really tough when you're having those conversations with families that are trying to get their kids where they should be, but are struggling with the resources. And then the teachers themselves are struggling with time and curriculum changes and things move a little slow. What we can do here is personalized per student, but also we can move at the pace of that individual student. If they're ready for the next level, we're going to go with them. If they need a little bit more intervention work, we're going to make that happen immediately. We do not have to wait for the next, semester, the next quarter, the next learning period, which is really powerful. So, yes, I have absolutely worked in in-person settings. I was also an at-risk math teacher for a school district, and then I moved outside. I did outdoor education for a year, and that is what started inspiring me to look for some alternative options, because working in an alternative setting that was individual focused and small group focused rather than classroom focused was, to be honest, an addictive feeling as a teacher that I hadn't felt before. And I just felt like I had to chase it. And that is when I made the decision to move from Michigan to California. And my world was opened to this world of public charter schools in Southern California, where the goal and mission can be from top down to focus individually on kids. So I loved being a classroom teacher, but there was always that piece of me that felt, if only I could reach all of these kids. And is there a model in education where that's even possible? Or am I going to keep wondering what to do every semester?
So going back into like homeschool and everything, do you think you can tell us what makes the Homeschool Academy different than Virtual and Flex?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all have the same goal, of course, right? We want to support our students as much as possible. We want our students to make progress. We want our students to learn, and we want our students to learn to love learning and become lifelong learners. But when we are designing the academy options at Elite, we really had to be honest about what parents are oftentimes looking for as well. Because when we're looking at a homeschool setting, an independent study setting, it all comes down to the time that parents also have to put into education and what works for each student. So some parents were ready to be more hands-off and take charge of the learning, hands off from their teacher, really take charge of the learning. We're looking to have more voice and choice in curriculum, and that's where the Homeschool Academy came from. And then we had parents coming in saying, hey, we want this, we really want to do this, but we don't really have that much time at home, and so we want a lot of support. And so that's really where the Flex and the Virtual Academy were born, listening to parents about what they would like to do and what they're capable of doing, and then pushing in as much student support as possible. So that's one of the primary things that makes the three academies different. Number one, the level of required direct parental support. So in the Homeschool Academy, we're training parents to become educators. So some are coming in with experience and some are coming in saying, I want to do this, but I've never taught before, and I'm really, really scared, and I'm not sure I made the right decision. And so we're there to hold their hands and to walk them along this journey, to help come up with curriculum options, to help assess their kids, focus in on areas of need, and also highlight progress along the way, and train these parents to become more comfortable and confident educators for their own kids. And that's a really difficult job in itself. Then there's the Flex Academy, which is sort of a blend of both worlds. There's the flexibility to do work at home on your own time, but there's a little bit more of that direct built-in support and a little bit less voice and choice in curriculum for parents. So for those that say, I prioritize our schedule and pacing and knowing what's next more than the choice, then that's a wonderful setting. And then, of course, in the virtual academy, where the curriculum is all online and parents know that there's a highly qualified teacher for each subject. And then the parents can support on the side with the reminders, with the emotional support of getting work done and of school, and making sure that the kids are logging on. It also comes down to the kids. Not all kids need the support of their parents at all times. And a lot of times once they get a little bit older, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, they're like, Mom, Dad, can you leave me alone? And I just want to get my work done independently. So the virtual academy may be wonderful for those students. And then we can choose year to year. Some students that slide from one academy to the other. So I'm really proud to offer all of the options that we have at Elite. I think it makes sense for parents, and it also really makes sense for students to make sure we have different levels of support depending on what they need.
I'm pretty sure after watching this video, many students are going to be inspired by having such a cool director. But do you look up to anyone, or is someone an inspiration to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say first and foremost, both of my parents. I'm really fortunate to have been raised from, my parents they're both very hardworking individuals. My dad is an engineer and was so very intelligent, very hardworking. But what my parents prioritized while I was growing up was hard work, more than being smart, more than just the grades. It was always, I remember always being praised on how hard I worked and for the work ethic that I was showing. I think that really helped shape me into somebody that now understands how to help shape students, right? Because we're working with families, and sometimes our parents are coming to us saying, we're having trouble with motivation for our students in this setting. We're not sure exactly where to go next, or what else we can do. Is it the curriculum, or is there anything else we can change? And I look back a lot on how I was raised, and I think we all do that, right? We look back on our own experiences, but I think about, first and foremost, how would I feel if I was that child? Right. And I think so much about the support that I felt from my mom and my dad growing up, and what their priorities were with making sure I was happy. Didn't mean, I was doing things I loved all the time. I had to work hard, but praising me for the hard work, not just the grades, not just the end product, but the journey along the way, the hard work along the way. I think so often we forget to praise that for kids. We're looking at the end product of making sure you get the grade, the end product of the scholarship, the end product of finishing that project, rather than the hard work that kids are putting in and finding little ways to praise that. I really look up to both of my parents for really showing me what that felt like, because when I connect with kids, sometimes I see that is what is missing, and we can really work together to make sure there are ways to really incentivize working hard, not just trying to chase the grade. Because we all know grades are important, but they're not the why behind what we do. Working hard and loving what you do is the why. Loving the people you're with is the why. And if you as a student aren't feeling that in this setting, it makes doing work and wanting to do work difficult. So I really look up to my parents for a lot of what they have instilled with me. I also really look up to the homeschooling families. I am inspired by them constantly. And sometimes they think I'm flattering them, but I tell homeschooling families every single day, I do not know how you do what you do. I am in awe of what you're able to provide your child. On a daily basis, I'm inspired by our homeschooling families that decided to homeschool, even though it was scary, even though they had maybe family or friends saying, are you making the right decision? And they still went along and they did it, and they made a really hard decision for their family, but the right one for their kids. And I'm constantly inspired by the families that are really making this setting work and are taking learning to the next level. And then we get to be with them on that journey. It's really an honor.
God, I absolutely loved your answer for that question. Um, so going into like leadership and everything, I think everybody has their like own like, oh, everybody like, sorry, hold on, got confused there. Everybody has their own on like what they think makes a great leader. What are your like, what do you think makes a great leader?
I think to listen. I think that sounds really obvious. It's one of those answers that sounds obvious, but to really listen is hard, because as a leader, we have a lot we need to do. We have a lot of compliance. We have to answer to the board, to our leadership. We have to answer to the school district, to the state, right? To the federal government for ed code in California. And so it's really, really easy as leaders in this world of education to take what you know needs to be done and then give orders to do it. And I don't think that's specific to education. I think it just happens a lot in education, but that impacts kids directly when a decision is done that way. I think what makes a great leader in this setting is somebody who listens, because if we listen first, we're going to do what's right for kids. It's never lost on me that the reason I am here is to serve students. It is not to give orders. So I am here to support teachers. I'm here to support parents and families. And I am here, of course, to support students, but it all comes to all the support that trickles down to the students. So we have to find ways to listen, right? And sometimes that can come just from direct conversations with students and parents. It can come from surveys. It can come from targeted phone calls. But in a meeting, when we're making any decision for a kid, whether it's a 4-year planning meeting about high school, or this is a transitional kindergarten student trying to figure out what's on the horizon next year with kindergarten and are they where they should be, in that meeting, you are making a decision for a child that will impact their life and it will impact their parents' life. So going into any meeting, it is to sit back, ask questions, and listen. And if we set a culture where teachers are doing that first, I think naturally we open up a culture that students feel very comfortable, because we're instinctively reacting to them and proactively planning for what's next on the horizon, but always making decisions with students in mind and listening to students and families. We are a school of choice. So we're not your neighborhood school. And that means every single student, every single parent of any student in our academy chose to be here. They researched, they called around, they went on Google, they talked to their friends, and they chose our school. So our job isn't to tell them what to do or what's next. Our job is to sit down and to listen and to plan and to do everything we can to support. And that's, again, that is, I think, what makes my job so difficult, because in order to listen, it means there's a lot of work to be done, right? There's a lot of follow-up from every meeting, is multiple phone calls to make sure we're doing what's right, to get the tutor involved, to talk to the teacher, to get the content teacher involved. For a younger kid, making sure we have all the curriculum set, the teacher understands and can support the curriculum. Is there any support others that we need? So we're putting a lot of feelers out to put this plan around this child, but it came from listening. And I think that is a culture I will always work really hard to foster, is to listen first.
I totally agree with you. I think listening is such a key point to making a good leader. But what have you learned so far during your time at Elite?
I think what I've learned is that anything is possible with the right people supporting kids. To be a student-centered school is not impossible. I think that's really what I've learned. Everybody coming, especially in the world of education, we've all come from different places. All students, both of you have come from many different schools and found yourself at Elite. It is the same with teachers and all administrators that have found themselves at this school and have found a home because of the culture of support that is here at Elite. And with that culture of support and inclusiveness and understanding and those that can listen, I mean, anything is possible. When we're talking about students, sometimes new teachers that come into our world are a little bit overwhelmed because they'll ask questions and say, I'm not sure what I should do with this student. Here's what mom said, here's what dad said. They're kind of struggling in math, and here's their iReady scores. What do you think? Could we try X, Y, and Z? And we'll say, yeah, we should try that. And a lot of times they're a little overwhelmed, like, oh, we don't need to go through a process to like look at maybe what intervention should be done. No, you have listened to the family. We have their curriculum set up. We are partnering with them. If we need to make a change, we can make a change, right? Anything is possible when you're working one-on-one with kids and you have the right people around you that are making decisions for kids. I think that's one thing I have learned. Anything is possible. Crazy ideas about, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? Sure, let's do it. Let's do it for kids. Let's offer it. Wouldn't it be cool if we did power hours? Cool, let's do it, right? Wouldn't it be cool if we offered professional development opportunities for parents directly and helped train them to be amazing teachers and got them mentor teachers that were other parents? Sure, let's do it, right? All these crazy ideas that we can come up with are possible in this setting. That's one thing that I've learned and I haven't experienced in other schools, where we can really make it happen, knowing that it is going to serve the needs of students and it's within the realm we can do. Let's go.
Thank you for that response. Well, me and Desiree, we're really honored for you to have such a great talk today. And thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Jorgensen. And thank you for all you do. But Elite students, be sure to subscribe to the Elite's YouTube channel for updates on more Leaders 101 episodes. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelina. Thank you, Desiree.